My parents lied about a medical emergency to steal my $50,000 wedding fund to pay for the golden child's honeymoon. So, I got married in secret and bankrupted them. I, 28F, never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. For context, I'm the youngest of 3 children in what I once thought was a loving, albeit imperfect, family. My older sister, Emma, 32F, has always been the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect husband, you name it, Emma excelled at it. My brother, Jake, 30M, is the peacekeeper, always trying to smooth things over and keep the family harmony intact. Then there's me, Sarah, the perpetual disappointment according to my parents. Growing up, the favoritism was clear but subtle. Emma got the newest clothes, the best tutors, and the most praise. Jake, being the only boy, got his fair share of attention too. I, on the other hand, always felt like an afterthought. Don't get me wrong, my parents provided for me, but there was always an underlying current of why can't you be more like Emma? Despite their clear favoritism, I've always tried to maintain a relationship with my family. I worked hard in school, got a scholarship to a good college, though not as prestigious as Emma's, of course, and even started my own successful small business after graduation. It's a boutique marketing firm specializing in eco-friendly brands, something I'm incredibly proud of, even if my parents never quite understood or appreciated it. When I met Alex, 29M, 4 years ago, it felt like the universe was finally cutting me a break. He's kind, funny, and supports me in a way my family never did. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of indie music and terrible puns. After 2 years of dating, he proposed during a surprise picnic in the park where we had our first date. It was perfect, and for once, I felt like my life was falling into place. When I got engaged, I was thrilled to share the news with my family. To my surprise, my parents seemed genuinely happy for me, which was a pleasant change. Emma, of course, immediately started talking about how her wedding had been, setting an impossibly high bar. Jake gave me a big hug and whispered that he was glad I'd found someone who appreciated me for who I am. Now, here's where things get interesting. Over the past 5 years, I'd been saving for my dream wedding. I'm talking spreadsheets, budgeting apps, and picking up extra clients whenever I could. I had managed to put aside $50,000, a considerable sum that represented countless hours of hard work and sacrifice. My parents knew about this fund and had even contributed a small amount, about $2,000, as a gesture of goodwill. At the time, I was touched by their contribution, seeing it as a sign that maybe, just maybe, they were finally starting to see me as an equal to Emma. Alex and I spent months planning our perfect wedding. We found a beautiful venue, a renovated barn on a winery that perfectly fit our rustic chic vision. We hired a farm-to-table catering company that agreed to create a menu featuring local, seasonal ingredients. I even splurged on a gorgeous designer dress that made me feel like a princess. Everything was coming together beautifully, and for once, I felt like I was going to have something that even Emma couldn't overshadow. Everything was going smoothly until about 6 months ago. I received a frantic call from my mom late one night. She was sobbing hysterically, barely able to form coherent sentences. After a few minutes of trying to calm her down, she finally managed to tell me that my dad had been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer and needed immediate, experimental treatment. My heart sank. Despite our complicated relationship, the thought of losing my dad was devastating. Then came the kicker: the treatment wasn't covered by insurance, and they needed $50,000. Exactly the amount in my wedding fund. I was torn. On one hand, this was my dream wedding, something I had worked towards for years. On the other, this was my father's life we were talking about. After a long, tearful conversation with Alex, we decided that family had to come first. We agreed to give them the money, resigned to having a small, intimate ceremony instead. It was disappointing, but my dad's health was more important than any party, no matter how special. The next day, I went to the bank and transferred the entire $50,000 to my parents' account. My mom cried and thanked me profusely, telling me I was saving my father's life. Dad got on the phone briefly, sounding weak, to express his gratitude. I felt a mix of emotions, sadness about the wedding, worry for my dad, but also a tiny glimmer of hope that maybe this sacrifice would finally prove to them how much I cared. For the next few months, I checked in regularly with my parents about Dad's treatment. They always gave vague answers, saying he was hanging in there or taking it day by day. I offered to come visit multiple times, but they insisted it wasn't necessary and that Dad was too weak for visitors. They said the treatment was intensive and he needed to focus all his energy on recovering. During this time, Alex and I adjusted our wedding plans. We canceled our venue booking, losing our deposit in the process. I returned my dream dress, fighting back tears as I explained the situation to the sympathetic boutique owner. We started looking into options for a small ceremony in our backyard, trying to make the best of the situation. Then, last month, everything changed. I got a call from Jake, and he sounded confused. He asked if I was coming to Emma's surprise vow renewal ceremony. I had no idea what he was talking about. Apparently, our parents had planned an extravagant vow renewal for Emma and her husband in Hawaii, complete with a stay at a luxury resort and a 2-week honeymoon cruise. My blood ran cold. I pressed Jake for more details, and he innocently spilled everything, not realizing I was in the dark. The total cost of this lavish affair? You guessed it, about $50,000. I was in shock. My parents had lied about a life-threatening illness to steal my wedding fund and give it to my already married sister for a completely unnecessary celebration. The betrayal cut deep, but a part of me wasn't even surprised. It was just the latest in a long line of disappointments and unfair treatment. I spent the next few hours in a daze, trying to process what I'd learned. Alex came home from work to find me crying on the couch, surrounded by tissues and old photo albums. As I told him what happened, his face went from concern to shock to pure anger. I'd never seen him so furious. That's when we hatched our plan. We decided to get married immediately, in secret. We found a 24-hour chapel, called our closest friends, and tied the knot that very night. It was nothing like the wedding we'd planned, but in a way, it was perfect. Just us, our best friends, and our love for each other. No family drama, no comparisons to Emma's wedding, just pure, simple commitment. The next day, running on a mix of adrenaline, newlywed bliss, and righteous anger, I called my parents. I started by asking innocent questions about Dad's health, letting them dig themselves deeper with lies about his ongoing treatment. Then I confronted them about Emma's vow renewal. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, my mom started crying, and my dad took over the call. They tried to deny it at first, claiming I must have misunderstood Jake. But when I revealed that I knew all the details, they broke down and admitted everything. Their excuses were pathetic. They said they just wanted to give Emma the celebration she deserved after all her hard work and success. They claimed they were going to pay me back eventually, but couldn't bear to see Emma disappointed. They begged for forgiveness, saying they'd make it up to me somehow. That's when I dropped my bombshells. First, I informed them that Alex and I were already married. Their shock was palpable. They'd effectively missed their youngest daughter's wedding due to their own deceit. Then I revealed the bigger news. As my legal next of kin, Alex now had full access to all the financial information they had previously hidden from me. You see, my parents had been hiding a mountain of debt for years. They had taken out multiple loans and credit cards in my name when I was younger, using my excellent credit score to fuel their lavish lifestyle and spoil Emma. I'd had suspicions for years but could never prove anything. Now, with Alex's help and his friend who worked in finance, we'd uncovered everything. The amount of fraud was staggering. Multiple credit cards maxed out, personal loans, even a second mortgage on their house, all in my name. They'd been maintaining this house of cards for years, using new loans to pay off old ones, all while keeping up appearances and funding Emma's lavish lifestyle. I laid out my demands. 1. They would immediately cancel Emma's vow renewal and honeymoon, using whatever refunds they could get to start paying back my $50,000. 2. They would sign over the deed to their house to me as collateral for the remaining debt. 3. They would attend family therapy with all of us siblings to address their toxic favoritism and financial abuse. 4. They would make a public apology to me and Alex, admitting to their lie and theft. 5. They would confess everything to Emma and Jake, taking full responsibility for their actions. My parents were stunned into silence. When they finally spoke, it was to beg and plead. They said I was overreacting, that it was just a misunderstanding. They tried to guilt me, saying I would destroy the family if I went through with this. But I stood firm. I had years of evidence documenting their financial abuse, and they knew I could destroy them if I went public. In the end, they had no choice but to agree to my terms. I could hear the defeat in their voices as they realized the gravity of their actions and the consequences they now faced. The fallout was intense. Emma was furious when her dream vow renewal was cancelled. She called me every name in the book, accusing me of being jealous and spiteful. Jake was shocked but ultimately supported my decision, saying it was long overdue. He confessed that he'd always felt uncomfortable with how our parents treated me but had been too afraid to speak up. Over the past few weeks, things have been tense, to say the least. My parents are struggling to adjust to their new financial reality. They had to sell most of their luxury items and downsize significantly. The family therapy sessions have been explosive, with years of resentment and secrets coming to light. Emma isn't speaking to any of us, feeling betrayed by the cancellation of her event and the revelation of our parents' financial misdeeds. She's threatened to cut ties with the family entirely, which honestly feels like an empty threat given how much she's benefited from our parents' favoritism over the years. Jake has been a surprising source of support. He's expressed deep remorse for not standing up for me sooner and has been working hard in therapy to rebuild our relationship. It's been healing to finally connect with my brother as equals, without our parents' influence looming over us. As for me, I feel lighter than I have in years. Alex and I are planning a beautiful reception to celebrate our marriage with our true friends and family. We're using the money my parents are paying back to fund a down payment on our dream home, something that would have been impossible if I hadn't uncovered their deceit. My business has actually seen an uptick in clients. Word got out about what happened, small towns and all that, and many people in the community have rallied around me. I've received messages of support from old classmates, neighbors, and even some of Emma's friends who always felt she was treated unfairly well. I know some might think I went too far, but after years of emotional manipulation and financial abuse, I finally stood up for myself. My parents' actions nearly cost me my chance at happiness, and I refuse to let them get away with it. It's been a difficult journey, but I'm proud of myself for breaking the cycle of abuse and standing up for what's right. So, here's to new beginnings, hard-learned lessons, and the family we choose rather than the one we're born into. Alex and I are excited for our future, free from the toxic influence of my parents and sister. We're talking about starting our own family soon, and I'm determined to be the kind of parent I always wished I had. TLDR, my parents lied about a medical emergency to steal my $50,000 wedding fund for my golden child sister's vow renewal. I got married in secret and used my new legal status to uncover years of financial abuse, ultimately forcing them to repay me and face the consequences of their actions. Edit 1. Wow, I never expected this post to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your support and kind words. To address some common questions and comments. 1. Yes, I've spoken with a lawyer and am taking steps to protect myself legally. All the loans and credit cards in my name have been closed, and I'm working on repairing my credit score. It's a long process, but I'm determined to clean up the financial mess my parents created. 2. For those asking about Jake, he's been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. He admitted that he always felt uncomfortable with how our parents treated me but was too afraid to speak up. We're working on rebuilding our relationship in a healthier way. Just last week, we had a long heart-to-heart where he shared some of his own struggles growing up in our dysfunctional family. It's been healing for both of us. 3. Some have asked if I feel guilty about potentially leaving my parents in financial ruin. The truth is, I don't. They made their choices, and now they're facing the consequences. I gave them multiple chances over the years to come clean and make things right, but they chose to continue lying until they were caught. Their financial problems are a result of their own actions, not my response to them. 4. To those suggesting I go no contact with my family, I'm seriously considering it, at least with my parents and Emma. The family therapy sessions have been enlightening, to say the least. My parents seem more concerned with saving face than actually addressing their behavior. Emma still refuses to attend, insisting that she's the real victim in all of this. Jake and I are working on maintaining a relationship separate from our parents' influence. 5. Alex has been my rock through all of this. He's furious on my behalf but has also been incredibly patient and understanding. We're focusing on building our life together and healing from this trauma. He's encouraged me to start individual therapy to work through my feelings about my family, and it's been incredibly helpful. 6. For those wondering about the business side of things, yes, I've taken steps to ensure my parents can't access any of my business accounts or assets. I've also informed my business partners about the situation to protect our shared interests. Surprisingly, this whole ordeal has led to some new business opportunities as people in the community have reached out to support me. 7. To the person who asked about my wedding dress, the boutique owner was incredibly understanding when I returned it. When she heard my story, she offered to hold the dress for me for a few months in case my situation changed. I'm considering buying it back, with my own money this time, for the reception we're planning. 8. Many have asked about the legal ramifications for my parents. Yes, what they did was illegal, and I have every right to press charges. I'm still deciding how to proceed on that front. Part of me wants to see justice served, but another part just wants to move on with my life. I'm discussing my options with my lawyer and therapist. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know to feel validated after years of gaslighting and manipulation. I'll post updates if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and moving forward with my new husband and the family we choose to create. Edit 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their continued support and advice. Here's where things stand now. 1. Legal matters. After much deliberation and consultation with my lawyer and therapist, I've officially pressed charges against my parents for identity theft and fraud. It was an incredibly difficult decision, but I realized it was necessary not just for my own closure, but to protect potential future victims. The case is ongoing, but initial evidence looks strong in my favor. My parents are facing serious legal consequences, and while part of me feels guilty, I know this is the right thing to do. 2. Family dynamics. The family therapy sessions have been discontinued. After 5 intense and often volatile sessions, it became clear that my parents were not genuinely interested in changing their behavior. They continued to make excuses and tried to minimize their actions, often attempting to paint themselves as the victims. Emma attended one session, only to accuse me of ruining her life and destroying the family. She stormed out halfway through and hasn't been back since. Jake has been supportive but is struggling with the fallout. 3. Financial repercussions. My parents have managed to repay about 30% of the stolen funds so far. They've had to sell their luxury cars, designer clothes, and most of their valuable possessions. The house is still in my name as collateral, but they're living there for now under a strict agreement. It's strange to think of myself as my parents' landlord, but it's necessary to ensure they follow through on their obligations. 4. Emma's reaction. My sister has gone on a smear campaign, telling extended family and friends that I'm a vindictive, jealous younger sister who couldn't stand to see her happy. She's conveniently left out the part about the stolen money and years of financial abuse. Some relatives have bought into her story, flooding my social media with angry messages. However, others have reached out to me privately to offer support, saying they always suspected something was off about our family dynamics. 5. Personal life. Alex and I had our reception last week, and it was everything we could have hoped for. We were surrounded by true friends and supportive family members, including Jake and his girlfriend. I wore the wedding dress I had originally returned. The boutique owner was kind enough to sell it back to me at a discount. The celebration was filled with love, laughter, and a sense of newfound freedom. We're settling into our new home and focusing on building a positive future together. 6. Emotional healing. I've started individual therapy to work through the years of emotional abuse and manipulation. It's been challenging but incredibly helpful. I'm learning to set boundaries, recognize my own worth outside of my family's skewed perceptions, and deal with the complex emotions that come with essentially losing my parents and sister. Some days are harder than others, but I'm making progress. 7. Business impact. Surprisingly, my business has seen an uptick in support from the local community. After the truth came out, many people rallied around me, and I've received an outpouring of new clients and partnership opportunities. It seems that standing up against injustice has resonated with a lot of people. I'm working on expanding my team to handle the increased workload. 8. Moving forward. After much discussion, Alex and I have decided to move to a new city for a fresh start. We're excited about the opportunities ahead and the chance to build a life free from the shadow of my toxic family dynamics. We've started looking at houses in a vibrant city about 3 hours away, close enough to maintain relationships with supportive friends and Jake, but far enough to create some healthy distance from the drama. Thank you all again for your kindness and support. This community has been an unexpected source of strength during one of the most challenging periods of my life. I may not update again for a while as I focus on healing and building my new life, but know that your words have made a real difference. Here's to choosing our own paths and creating the families we deserve, whether by blood or by choice.